Oh, very cool. All right. Hello. Time is 6:30. And I'm going to call the Newcastle Planning Board meeting today, Thursday, February 16th, 2023 to order. The first item on the agenda is to review the minutes from January 19th, 2023. Do we have a motion to accept the minutes? Made. Do we have a second? Made and seconded. Do we have any comments, conversations, changes, anything to discuss about the minutes from January 19th? All good? Seeing none? All in favor? Those minutes are approved 3-0. We have no applications tonight, so we'll skip over that. Move to public comments, and I just want to make one public comment just so everybody's aware. Tonight will be our last night with Isabel. She's moving on to greener pastures. And so I wanted to thank her for her time in Newcastle and the work that we've done. It's been a lot of work in a very short amount of time. And I know that from our meetings, I definitely dumped a whole lot on you when you first got here, and you managed it very gracefully. So thank you very much. Very much appreciated, but we are going to miss
you. You took over my planner's report, which was going to be
it's going to be what that was.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
That if you have not already seen it in the paper, this is my last meeting. I'm actually leaving to start my own business, doing essentially this for a lot of municipalities in Maine. So yeah, this is my last meeting in this capacity, but I actually have been hired by the town to work on the historic preservation ordinance that we discussed a few meetings ago. So we just had our first meeting with our newly appointed committee. And then I did ask Mike, who's in the audience, to come and introduce himself. The town has had a contract with Mid-Coast Council of Governments, which provides planning services. They've already had that contract. Mike was working on a variety of items for the town, including updates to the comprehensive plan, and so is familiar with Newcastle. I don't know if you have anything else you want to say, but he'll essentially be taking over.
Come on up.
Thanks. Nice to meet all of you. Thank you for that introduction. Yeah, I'm looking forward to starting. Like Isabel said, I'm with the Mid-Coast Council of Governments, and I'm familiar maybe from a distance. I live in Bristol, so I'm in Newcastle regularly, but as far as planning from a distance, as far from the comp plan and some other work that we've done together. So I'm looking forward to it. So
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for taking over.
Yeah.
Yep.
We have a lot of work, as I was just talking to Isabel right before the meeting. Our last meeting, we just prioritized a huge work order list of things, which I'm sure you've seen by now.
I think I have. Is that the priorities list? Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, I've seen that.
Which is not an insignificant amount of work. So
Yeah. Well, hopefully I can keep things moving along.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yep. So yeah, not a lot to add. It's been a pleasure working with you guys. I hope to continue working with you in whatever capacity that might look like, but have full faith that Mike will take over the work that we've begun together. And that's it.
Great. So you're leaving Damascus and Newcastle.
I am, yes. Actually continuing to do work in some ways with both communities, but I'm leaving this capacity. Yep.
Great. All right. Well, then we'll move on to the first new thing we have for new business, which is a public hearing about a remote and hybrid meeting policy. So we actually are streaming live to Zoom, and why don't you go ahead and introduce it? And I mean, this is something we had talked about, but
Yep.
give us the breakdown.
Yeah, so this is what we talked about at the last meeting. We had a brief conversation just to allow people who can't be physically at the meeting, whether because of an illness or an emergency or God forbid, another global pandemic or something like that. We have something in place to actually call a remote or hybrid meeting with notice. So this essentially mirrors the select board's remote meeting policy that they adopted. I did add a couple of other clauses to this, especially noting hybrid meetings. While the planning board isn't required by law to offer this type of meeting, I noted that we will offer it, or at least endeavor to offer it. And I think that's probably the biggest difference from the one that the select board adopted. I think this is fairly straightforward, but a change in state law requires any municipal bodies to adopt their own policy. So
Thank you very much for putting it together.
Yep.
I did have a couple of questions, if you guys don't mind me starting. The first question related to, and I don't think it was in here. A board member participating remotely, yes, but there's no constraints on that. In other words, I would hate to be in the position where we appoint a planning board member who then moves to somewhere else, but wants to continue being a member of the board, or lives here for 6 months and 1 day of the year, but is somewhere else for the other 5 months and change, and wants to participate. So I'd like to see, if we could, some sort of bounds put on, like, yes, in the case of a pandemic or in case of illness or whatever, board members should be able to participate remotely. However, that activity should not extend beyond X, whatever X is. And I don't know what's reasonable. You know what I mean? Makes sequentially or in a given period of time, or whatever you think. I don't know.
No, I think that's the answer. Couple of meetings, 3 meetings or whatever it is. Give somebody time to, I don't know, attend to sick family members somewhere else or whatever. I think one has to bend a little bit for that.
Okay.
But your point is good. You don't just go drifting off and then still want to play in the sandbox.
6 months of the year, every year.
Yeah.
I mean, that's sort of leaves it open-ended.
Right. I mean, it does say in the beginning, board members are expected to be here physically,
Right.
but it doesn't say what that really means. 3 is good to me. I mean, 3 consecutive meetings. We can start there. If it becomes a problem, I think we can amend it, but I just think there should be something.
Yeah.
Right.
Agreed.
The second question I had was, this is geared towards board members. So what about members of the community that might want to hop on and participate remotely?
That was my question about the last one that I think you were referring to, the 7.
Yep.
That will endeavor to conduct a hybrid meeting, even when there is no remote participation by any. So, and every meeting will be hybrid, which means if we're all present, hybrid means any member of the community can join.
Right.
Right now we're streaming on Zoom. Is this open to the public that other people could drop in right now?
Yeah.
It could be, but
it was advertised on the agenda. So
Yeah.
theoretically anyone could be hopping in.
I would
That's-
encourage that, and I like that, because that people who often say, I would like to come, but it is difficult for me to either get there at that time,
Yeah.
or I have children at home or whatever. This is a great tool. So I'm in favor of that. Again, there's some open-endedness to that I'd like to talk about constraint wise. If we open it to the public, something all of us know by now is that there are unfortunately folks who don't mute themselves. And then you hear a lot of background noise, or they're talking maybe, over people who shouldn't, you know what I mean? Who manages? Is it you?
exactly.
You're the mic guy. So you would be the one who literally mutes and unmutes. So then
To the best of my ability.
to the best of your ability. So then it has to be in some way a communication between the chair
Yes.
and the person recording the meeting and managing the remote session, because I'm focused here. I'm focused on what's happening. I'm not going to necessarily always notice that there's someone raising a hand on the screen and that they need to be muted and unmuted so that they can participate or be recognized.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if we need to make that clear in this language that,
I think you do, because the only way to really do this effectively is to have everybody muted
all the time.
by, well, until they raise their hand, they're seen, they're raising their hand. That's communicated to you, the flag goes up or whatever the message is.
Yeah.
And you say, oh, Jeff, what is it you want to say?
Right.
And then at some point, Jeff finally says, oh, that was a bad choice of words, but our Jeff
Yes.
says, you done? You're back on mute again. And that's just got to be a hard rule.
So I think if we just write that in there as that is the policy for remote participation, so that people understand that that's how it's going to work.
Mm.
They will be muted until they want to say something and they're recognized.
Mm.
And then they will be remuted after they're done. That will just help the meeting, everyone understand how the rules of the meeting work.
That's the most important part.
Yeah.
When you leave things fuzzy, people take advantage of them. And then you've got this time limit thing. Does that time limit, do we have a 15-minute time limit on somebody chitty chatting on Zoom? Or do you reduce that time limit? Because you could have a lot of people
So
engaged.
I guess there's at least there's three categories of remote participation. There's board member remote participation, what I would call a consultant or other like application member, or maybe the consultant of the application applicant is remote. So that's the second category. And the third category would be the public. And I would probably suggest that we apply different metrics to those board members. I would expect that board members should be able to operate the technology in such a way that they do not need to be on mute, that they are a full-time participant of the meeting and they can speak up. We would hear them. They can be recognized. They can say what they need to say. The other two classifications should always be on mute and should be, recognized by a hand. The consultants should not have a time limit. Obviously, we're going to have a dialogue. The general members of the public, I think, when we move to this model, we'll have to be a little bit more diligent about how I, at the moment, I run the meeting, which is to open and close the public hearings sections of the meetings, because those are the times that the public would be allowed to participate.
Yeah.
And so maybe we just need to make it clear that that is the time, the only two times during the meeting the public will be allowed to be part of the conversation and be recognized and unmuted would be during public comments for items not on the agenda and during public hearings when the hearing is opened, after the hearing is opened.
And we do have a time limit
And a time limit.
already for in-person.
And that would be the same.
Same, yeah,
Wouldn't you agree?
yeah, absolutely.
Right, yeah. I don't
I mean,
think it
the
should be
more
different.
the standards are known and consistent,
I agree.
the better off everybody is.
Isabel, and do either of you have anything to add or subtract to any of that?
I don't have anything.
Is that overly burdensome?
Nope.
Okay. I don't want to get into a quagmire where we're debating the rules during the meeting.
No, that
No,
makes
that's-
sense. And
that's enough.
and I actually have run into this before where somebody said like, well, why did you meet me? I wasn't done. And it was obvious that they were done. So it's nice to have it in writing
Yeah.
to point to.
Great. Is there anything else? Any other comments or things we need to discuss about the remote participation policy?
Is the preference just to have me make these changes and have it available on the next agenda of the board?
Yeah, I will, if we're done, I'll ask for a motion pending changes.
Okay.
Yep. Otherwise, I'm good. I am curious why if this is mostly mirrored from the select board, they don't have some of those things in there. I mean, did they discuss these things and decided not to include them? Or
I don't know the reason why. Yeah, I don't know.
maybe I'll ask. I don't want to do something different from what they're doing, but if they had a good reason for not including them, I'd like to know.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if there's nothing else to discuss, then I think I'll go ahead and make the motion that we approve the Newcastle Planning Board remote participation policy with the changes and amendments that we have discussed today. Second,
That's it.
Kevin, second. Any further discussion? No. All in favor? 3-0. Okay. So I kind of jumped over your planner's report, and I'm sorry. Did you have anything else you wanted to?
No, that was the only thing I had to add.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right. Well, then without objection, meeting adjourned. Time is 6:48. All right. Good. That clock fast. It is.
They started a little bit later than we started.
Yeah, well, sorry.